Okay, guys, this one's going to be a quick and easy one, but I did want to make sure that I flew through some of these just so I told you about them. But I did want to talk about billing and collections considerations. This is basically after you determine your price, after you've gotten an engagement letter, like how are you going to actually be doing the invoicing and the collections of things? So let's walk through some things. The very first thing that I always like to put on the list is client data protection. If for some reason a client is giving you their credit card, their full credit card number and information for you to charge them, or they're giving you their bank information, please, please, please make sure that you are protecting that, and that if you have employees, that you have some procedures in place to make sure that that information doesn't walk off and get into the wrong hands. So um, I recommend with billing and collections that you actually get a payment processor. Yes, they will take a percentage of the fees that you are collecting, but build that into your pricing if you need to, or make sure that it's part of your cost analysis. But just the peace of mind that you have, making sure that that credit card number or that information doesn't get out, I feel like is just really important. Another reason why I do recommend you have a payment processor is I like to set my billing up automatically because I already have a ton of administrative tasks that I'm doing, and having to at the end of the month know that if I don't do this hour's worth of billing, then there's no way I'm getting paid because the invoices aren't going out. I don't want to have that on my plate because, again, one of the reasons that I started this company is because I wanted it to be very flexible so that I could arrange it around my schedule. And so the amount of things that I can keep from having to have a hard and fast date to, I do that. So automated billing allows me to do that. I just set everybody up, and in my engagement letter, they know that as of the date that they sign that, that's going to basically be their monthly billing rate if they're doing recurring accounting with me. And if we're doing project work, I actually set that up to automatically collect that initial deposit, and then I do manually bill the project completion fees just because there's no way to know that when I'm finished with those. So automated billing, I think, is great. Just so you're aware, QuickBooks Online does have, if you sign up as an accountant user to QuickBooks Online, you actually, as part of that, get a free set of software to do your own books in. And it comes with QuickBooks Payments, which is their payment processor, to where you can create invoices in QuickBooks and just mark that you'll accept credit cards or bank accounts, and you can set those up to be recurring. I can actually walk you through on one of our later lessons. And so you can set up automated billing just in QuickBooks, and it's absolutely free to you to set it up. They will take a percentage of what you're billing your clients, so just keep that in mind. And I do feel like it's fairly market rate. I feel like last time I looked, it was something like 3.5% on credit cards, and then I do think they charge a flat fee for bank transactions. But I will provide some links for you guys on where you can get the pricing information on that. Um, this is the thing that I try my best to avoid because there is nothing worse, especially when you are starting a new business. It's really cash flow timing is almost more important than the revenues that you're making. It doesn't do you any good if you are doing work but not getting paid for it until 6 months after that is over, because that's money that, especially if you quit your job and you're trying to do this as a business, you need that money to live on. So you don't want late payments and you don't want outstanding balances. So I do think it's important to find a way to try to avoid those. One of the things that we do is we do charge a late fee if we don't receive a payment by a certain date. But we also have most of our people set up on automated billing schedules where on the X day, their credit card is just charged without anybody touching it. That being said, you are always going to run into issues where whatever card your client gave you either is declined for some reason, has expired for some reason, or you have an arrangement that's maybe a project arrangement where you do manually invoice that last piece, and they just are slow to pay with it. Um, so you do need to make sure that you're taking that into account. Like I always tell people, don't quit your day job just when you have the engagement signed. Like make sure that for a while you have some money coming in before you do that. But also outstanding balances, we actually now, when I first started, I just used QuickBooks, and I still recommend it is a good choice because it's free. And free is always good when you are still trying to get money coming in the door. So you can set up invoices out there, and then you can set those up to be automatically remind your clients if they have a balance that's overdue. And you can set up several stages of, from nice, gentle, hey, just a reminder, you haven't paid this yet, to, hey, this is over 30 days. And then if you ever, hopefully you never get to this point, but if you ever get to the point where you have to start sending those nasty grams that are, hey, we are pausing your services because you are so far behind in paying your bills that we are going to sit here and not do anything until you continue to, to pay your bills. Um, so just that's a consideration when you're doing billing and collections. One of the reports when I first started that I ran a lot just for my own business was that AR aging, because I wanted to make sure that I was getting paid on time. Um, and I've tried to, we use a program, and I do plan on, at the end of this, and I haven't decided which session I'm going to put this under, but I did plan on including a document that just lists what our tech stack is. So basically all of the software that we use or that we have used, and I'm going to provide just a brief little description about each of those and the thought process on why we use that, or why we're maybe not happy with that and we're looking for something else. Um, or why we maybe aren't perfectly happy with what we have but aren't switching because the cost of switching or the time involved in that is a mess. So I will try to provide a Word document on that, that I'm hopeful that if this training program stays out here longer, that I'll try and update that periodically, because new things are popping up all over the place. So I'll include what we use for our proposal and quote system, but the name of it is Practice Ignition. I think they just recently changed their name just to Ignition. But we use that just because it actually has a really nice marketing content included in it, and it makes my business look quite a bit more professional, I felt, than QuickBooks. Um, but absolutely, QuickBooks is perfectly fine, and it does look professional. We just liked the fact that Practice Ignition tied in a little bit better to all of our branding. And then legal considerations. So if you ever, and hopefully you don't, end up in a situation, I have, where I've had to actually take somebody to small claims court because they were not paying the bill as agreed. Just be aware that in a lot of states, I would say most states, there are going to be some legal considerations to how much you can charge for late fees and how much you can charge for, say, interest on outstanding balances. So just make sure you do a quick Google of whatever state you're operating in, or states if you're going to operate in multiple states, um, to make sure that you aren't getting yourself in trouble by, like, you can't charge. I'm here in Oklahoma. I can't charge on a $300 bill a $300 late fee. That's not allowed. It's not legal here, and there are some certain regulatory limits on how much interest I can charge on late balances. So just keep that in mind. And then I've talked about this several times, but again, this is something that I've been bitten by several times. But with projects, I do recommend that you don't. You're going to have the urge to, when you're meeting with the client, try to really sell the fact that you absolutely can be trusted with this big project, or with this, with their business. And you're going to want to offer them, you don't have to pay me anything until this is done. With project based things, I highly recommend you don't do that. You don't have to charge a lot up front, but it is important. I have had more than my fair share of projects that the client was gung ho ready to go, and then I sent them the list of the things that I needed, and they just never got around to providing me what I needed. And so I'm just sitting there in that constant state of, do I go ahead? I had kind of scheduled time to work on their project in my schedule around other clients, and now I'm sitting there in this weird limbo where I don't really feel comfortable bringing in a new client, because what if they do get me that information the very next day, and now I'm in a rush to get 2 clients worth of stuff done in 1 week. So I do recommend that you do at least charge at least a little bit, 10-20% of what the total project fee is up front. And if it's a really long involved project, it's never a bad idea to have milestone payments in there. If you're doing hourly billing, obviously none of this is a concern. You just bill what you are working. But in that situation, there is timing. Like, how often are you billing? On a weekly basis, on a monthly basis? But with project fee structures, I do recommend at least a little bit up front. And then if it's a long, involved process, go ahead and do some milestone payments in there. Just be aware you need to balance that with, the how much trouble are you causing the client? Like, if you're billing them like every day for what you're doing, like, I can see how that getting that many invoices would be a little bit irritating to your client. So it might be better to save that up and just do a monthly billing. Or with the project fee thing, do it at break points that make sense. Like, don't tell them every time I do a reconciliation, I'm going to demand my $25 because I finished one of those. Probably not a good idea. Um, but do have something in there to where you are not always waiting on that money to come in and you're always doing all of your work up front, because there are going to be situations in which you're going to have worked on things and they're not going to show up with the money